The idea behind the Reagan Revolution was that if we kept cutting taxes for the rich, it would eventually trickle down to the rest of us. Well, that didn't work. Instead, the rich got richer. But even more importantly, that unequal distribution of wealth has hurt our whole economy. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Look, the richest 1% of Americans used to take home 9% of the whole national income in 1976. Now, that's a lot, but it makes sense because they're the top bracket. But now they take home 24% of the national income. That is enormously high and creates a dangerous imbalance. The United States now has more unequal distribution of wealth than it did before the Great Depression. That didn't turn out too well for us. And it has more unequal distribution of wealth than countries that we are now called traditionally banana republics. But extra wealth was created since Reagan took over in 1980. So where did it go? Where did all the money go? Well, let's look. Well, from 1980 to 2005, more than 4/5 of the total increase in American incomes went to the richest 1% of Americans. So almost all the money went to the top 1%. Trickle-down economics is a lie. As Reagan would say, facts are stubborn things. Nicolas Kristoff wrote a great column about this very topic, and he joins us live from the newsroom of the New York Times. Nicolas, you can tell how I feel about this, but tell me why you think that this imbalance might hurt the whole economy.
Well, I think that traditionally we used to have the view that there was a trade-off between growth and equity, and that if you wanted to have more economic growth, you maybe needed to accept some disparities between rich and poor. And, at some level, that's true. You need a certain amount of inequity. But I think what we're also seeing is that when you get huge disparities, and I think that we've reached them in this country, then that concentration of wealth actually becomes an impediment to growth. And there is both evidence, if you look around the world, those incredibly unequal countries have had more trouble maintaining economic growth. And also there's now some evidence that that great concentration of wealth leads to more financial crises that, of course, then retard the entire economy. I would argue that's what we're just going through right now. I
want to show you one other thing that actually you wrote about as well. It's about CEO pay. The largest American companies, their CEOs used to average 42 times as much as the average worker in 1980. Now, that's a lot, but again, they're the CEO. In 2001, and that was now almost 10 years ago, that number increased to 531 times more than the average worker. Now, I think that creates two issues. One is, and correct me where I'm wrong here, Nicholas, one is that they have more money to speculate with. It leads to more bubbles. And the second problem is the Henry Ford problem. Henry Ford knew that he had to pay his workers more so they could buy his car. Now, the workers can't buy the cars. So it even creates a problem for the CEOs in the long run, doesn't it?
I mean, it does. And more fundamentally, if you look around the world, and I think this issue speaks to me so much because I travel a lot to countries that have great gaps, and it becomes increasingly corrosive to the country's political system, to the social fabric, to the sense of national purpose of a country. You get these donut countries where there's just nobody left in the middle. And it seems to me that at this point, where in the U.S., for example, the top 1% own more national wealth than the bottom 90%, that we've reached that point. And I think that backdrop of extraordinary inequality has to shape the present national conversation about priorities, such as right now, is our top priority to give tax breaks to to people with incomes over $250,000, or is it to extend unemployment benefits for people who've been laid off in the worst recession in 60 years?
Well, let me make it more stark. So if we just took the Obama-Republican compromise, it looks like, it hasn't happened yet, but it looks like they're going to compromise on 2 more years of tax cuts for the top 2%. That would cost our budget $140 billion. Now, and I'm being kind here, I'm not even going for the whole 10 years, $140 billion, but the Republicans say, hey, those guys are job creators. Wouldn't it make more sense, Nicholas, if we took the whole money and actually created jobs with it, instead of hoping that the rich create jobs here, that we start a jobs program, we take the whole $140 billion and hire people with it? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question that if you cut taxes for the rich, then there will be some jobs created. You know, they will indeed buy some second Porsches and some new yachts, and there will be some jobs created. But both economic theory and practical experience suggest that it's not that many jobs. That in economic terms, the multiplier effect for tax cuts for the very wealthy is very modest, because some of that money is actually saved. I mean, the top 0.1% of taxpayers will get an average tax break of $370,000. Now, you can't say that that entire $370,000 is going to go toward goods and services. It's not. You're going to get much more bang for the buck if you extend unemployment benefits.
And let me ask you one final question about that. I know you write a lot about microloans through developing countries, South Asia, Africa, et cetera. How about microloans here? I mean, the big banks aren't lending out the money, or at least they're not lending it out in the U.S. Why don't we take, again, for example, that $140 billion and give it in microloans? Maybe we do like we do in developing countries to women and see what they can do with it.
I mean, there's so many ways we can indeed help people. There are microloans, there are education programs, they're preventing people from being laid off, for example, just to keep people in the market. So there are a zillion ways we can do that, and the very least effective is to give large tax cuts to the wealthy.
All right, Nicolas Kristoff from the New York Times, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.